In the essay on weathering, David Leatherbarrow and Mohsen Mostafavi write, "Finishing ends construction. Weathering constructs finishes." This assertion would seem to defy one of the most ancient commonplaces of architecture. Buildings persist in time. Yet they do not. The modern movement in architecture would have us define weathering as a problem, as a deterioration, as a natural subtractive force of decay through time, that, left unhindered, will lead to the failure of material, and consequently the failure of building. In order to deter this demise as long as possible, buildings must be maintained. But society has never been much interested in maintenance. To quote artist Merle Laderman Euclides in her Maintenance Art Manifesto, "Maintenance is a drag. It takes all the time. The mind boggles and chafes at the boredom. The culture confers lousy status on maintenance jobs, minimum wages, and for housewives, no pay. Society is so repulsed by maintenance and so unwilling to pay for it that buildings in the present day are designed to be maintenance-free, and as a consequence, presumably weather-resistant, if there is such a thing." Leatherbarrow and Mostafavi highlight 3 architectural works that serve as case studies for the problem of weathering within the movement of modern architecture. With varying degrees of intention, these architects offered reinterpretation through invention on the discourse of weathering, through the interaction of material, space, and place. Our first case study is Eero Saarinen, a Finnish-American architect and an industrial designer who pushed aesthetic and material boundaries as a second-generation modernist. His John Deere headquarters, completed in 1964, was the first building to use Cor-10, a high-strength, low-alloy steel. When exposed to the elements, it develops a skin of rust that resists further corrosion and preserves structural strength. Saarinen's choice to use a material that responds expressively to its site was a direct critique of the sitelessness of the first generation of modern architecture. However, even in his avant-gardism, Saarinen was not directly interested in challenging the prevailing distaste for weathering. Particularly, the effects of staining, a physical manifestation that occurs when steel corrodes onto an adjacent material. To avoid the spread of the red stains of Cor-10 on marble or concrete, the John Deere headquarters was constructed almost entirely of this weathering steel. This project is a masterpiece of an organic modern architecture, as the surface transformation illustrates the dialogue between a work of architecture and the conditions of its location. But Saarinen might have achieved a more critical intellectual position and a greater harmony of place had he reconsidered the capacity of the stain to integrate and harmonize. Our second case study is Charles-Edward Jeanneret, otherwise known as Le Corbusier, an internationally influential Swiss architect, sculptor, painter, and city planner. His Mill Owners Association building, completed in 1954, illustrates an arc of iterative architectural innovation that spans Le Corbusier's 6-decade career. This project features the invention of the brise-soleil, a sun-deflecting element that can assume many forms, and a result from an unceasing questioning of the window within the wall. Again, we arrive at a project that inadvertently challenges the status quo of weathering. Similar to Saarinen, Le Corbusier was working with an intention to integrate architectural space with its location, climate, and place, an intention he realized through the utilization of the brise-soleil, but further through its construction in rough concrete, an inevitability born from the region's construction practices. If given the resources, Le Corbusier would have chosen finer craftsmanship, but then perhaps he wouldn't have come to expect faults in construction and learn how to use them as the basis for new solutions. In his book Material and Mind, Christopher Barth writes, "By our actions on and with material, we draw out its character, and as we do, material quietly affirms its resistance, concealed, mysterious, and indefinitely beyond our grasp. What is often described as material failure is the strife between world and earth, uncovering a truth that is greater than our capacity to understand." What is weathering but a metamorphosis of material? What is maintenance but an exercise of knowledge and agency in that transformation? The connotation of these terms is polluted by the prevalent cultural and societal attitudes of consumerism and ageism. We have shifted from a culture of making to a culture of consumption, and in this shift we have rendered ourselves incapable in engaging in the resistance. Why have we alienated ourselves so far from material interaction? Because we are material ourselves, and our own prejudice towards age is a denial of the weathering we experience with each passing day. It is time to reconsider how we pursue longevity. Let it be known that this is not an ode to buildings of the past that have persisted to the present. I do not romanticize. Our final case study is the work of Carlo Scarpa, an Italian architect known for his instinctive use of traditional materials combined with a rigorous knowledge for modern building technology. The Bank of Verona and the chapel in the Brion Cemetery are two projects that exemplify the work of an architect who challenged the collective consciousness towards the physical and intellectual fact of weathering. We might consider how weathering is a process of building resistance, accumulating capability, and revealing a depth of character. It is not a romanticized physical transformation. It is representative of a shift in attitude, a renewed willingness to engage in the resistance of material interaction, in the pursuit of knowledge, and calluses.